In this how-to, I'm going to show you how to copper plate, or actually, technically, it's electroform your 3D printed chassis or parts. Anything you want with a metal surface or appearance that is originally plastic. You know, a lot of people use metallic paints and stuff like that. They look cool, but you know, they're just not metal. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the Midas touch on this plastic and make it metal. Not gold, because I'm not gold plating, but we could. But there is a little trick to it, and it's not difficult. It's not a secret. This is something jewelers and craft people have been doing for quite a long time. The secret is conductive paint. And what this is it is paint that is full of graphite. So when you paint it on a piece, that piece then has graphite adhered to it. And then you wrap it up, put it in the electrolyte, put the power to it, and the plating process will begin and coat it. It may take a while to coat because it is just a thin layer of paint. So just take your time, go slow, don't go too fast because it could get crusty and stuff like that. Just you want a nice even plate. You can do prep work to this, your prints, if you want, because the whatever surface or whatever finish is on the part will transfer into the plating. I'm not going to go and buff this or sand it or anything. This is a unpolished print from Shapeways. So this is the SLS nylon. So why don't I go ahead and paint this up. Warning, this stuff is smelly. it's awful. So don't breathe it in. Just you know, keep it away, keep your face away from it, be smart, be safe. And again, anything with chemicals and electricity, safety first. So gloves, goggles, when you're gonna pour the stuff, and you know, all that good stuff to keep yourself safe. So let's go ahead and paint this. This stuff dries pretty quick, so I don't know if we'll have to do any cutting. A couple things for the painting. If your thing is super smooth, you might want to varnish it first, or put a primer on it or something like that, something that the paint can adhere to. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is, well, there's a few things. Corners and stuff like that, you always want to go around corners and make sure both sides or multiple sides are covered, because what happens with plating is you got a very thin layer of metal, and if it doesn't wrap around a corner, you could you know, accidentally rub it and then it peels off, and that's particularly a problem that came up with the Killer Penny piece that I did for Corbin. It had a lot of corners that I just had to keep in mind and make sure the peeling wouldn't happen. So get this covered up. Also, keep in mind that you know, if you are doing this for a chassis, you might not want to do this where the board is going to be, because electronics and metal and shorts and stuff like that are not fun. So just plan out what you're going to do, where your board is going to be, and find another solution for where that is. You don't want to put metal where the board will be. So it looks like this is, oh, missed an inside corner here. And it looks like that should do it. As I said, it dries pretty quick, so I can just put it down and get the solution ready. So the solution, if you've ever done research and looked online, there's a lot of people that just use rootkill from the hardware store or, you know, home store. But I use this stuff. I get it from the art store. It's from Jack's. They make a whole bunch of stuff. Copper plating solution, silver plating solution, you know, a whole bunch of different things, patinas, decent brand. So I get this whenever I go to the art store. I pick up a bottle. So I have it on hand. And then just get it in a container, as you see here. This is a piece of soft copper that I just bent around. If this were a final piece that I was making for a saber or for someone, I would have a coil of copper that went all the way around and up and down, so that an even plate happens on the piece. But for this is just fine. Alright, so now I gotta rig up the ring here. I would never plate a ring for a saber. This is not a piece that would need to be printed or plated, but it's one of the only spare prints that I have that I could do this with. So yeah, so I'll go and wrap this up. I'm just gonna wrap, this is speaker wire I got from Radio Shack, actually. I got a bunch of this and 25-cent bags of tactile switches when they were closing the store. So I stocked up on a whole bunch of stuff. I'll have tactile switches for the rest of my life, I think. But anyway, I'm going to try and wrap this wire around and get it kind of tight. I want a couple points of contact here. And I apologize if I go out of frame. It's tough to do this under the microscope of the frame here. Okay, then I want to see, get that a little tighter. Then I want to see that it goes all the way into the solution, but not hit the bottom. There we go. And then I can just attach the power lines to this little loop I made here. Opposite of anodizing, if you watch that video, the anode goes on the piece that you're going to anodize. With electroforming or plating, it's the opposite. And a good way to remember when you're using conductive paint in 3D printed parts is black wire on the black piece, red wire, well, in this case I'm copper plating, so red wire on the red metal. I use my power supply, but you can use one of those 6-volt lantern batteries that you can find in like camping sections. That would work, but I have my power supply, so I'm just going to set the current to, I think I'm going to start at like 750 milliamps, and then maybe go up. You don't want to start out too fast, as I said earlier. It may get crusty and stuff like that, so you want to go slow. In this case, we can get kind of close to the metal. Also, if this were a production piece, I would take it out a few times and rotate it so that it would plate where the wire is touching as well. And I would probably turn it a couple times and you know, mess around with it a little bit. But for our purposes, I'm just gonna let it go and see what happens. So let me turn this off as I'm connecting things. So remember, black wire goes to the black piece. Let me try and get this close enough so it doesn't pull. Yeah, it pulled away. Okay, that looks good. All right, and then the red wire here. And because this is pretty, I'm going to let that go down a little bit more. There we go. Because this is a pretty low current process here, we probably won't see a lot of, sorry, I'm just trying to get this situated so it doesn't rotate so much. There we go. We probably won't see a big reaction with bubbles, but trust me, it will work. I'll come back in a little bit and we'll probably see a little bit of like blooms of copper coming off from where the wire is. So let me turn that on and we will be back in a bit. It's been about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, and if you remember, I said we would probably see some blooms of copper coming from where the wire is. So let's take a look and see what's going on. And you can see we're getting some nice coverage. This would be the point where if this were a piece I was going to use, I'd turn it, resituate it. If the wire gets crusty, I would take the crust off or just, you know, rewrap it. But, you know, wear a glove and you can get the crust to come off, and then just dunk it, and that crust will come off in the solution. That's what all that junk down there is. I've done a couple pieces tonight, so I noticed that there is a part I missed painting, so that'll be neat to see once that starts to all the stuff around it starts to plate, and that part won't. So that'll be cool. You know, as I'm talking, why don't I just go ahead and rotate this. I know I'm not wearing a glove on this other hand. Do as I say, not as I do. So, yeah. Actually, I'm going to touch this a little bit more, so I am going to put the other glove on here. Okay, that looks good. Now I think I can just clip right here and be okay. Turn it back on. And, yep, all right. So we'll let it go for a bit more and see what happens. All right, it's getting late, so I'm just gonna take it as it is and see where we got. Because I got stuff to do tomorrow, so just grab a couple gloves here and we'll take a look. Turn the power off and disconnect everything, and just get this rag, put it on there. Get the solution out of the way. And looks like we got some crusting, which is fine. As you see, it rubs right off. So I'm gonna release it from the wire here. I did turn it a few times while it was going, just so we could get some more plating. You can see in some areas we could have let it go longer and it would have gotten in there, but yeah, only a couple. And if you do end up missing a piece, like I think right there is where I missed the paint, or the paint was thin, you can always go in and paint again and put it back in, and it'll be fine. So I'm just gonna dunk this in some water to get some of that crust off. Okay, so got most of the crust off, so I'm going to dry it off here. And you'll notice it's got like a salmon pinkish tone. It's not very bright or shiny. Not a huge deal, because the next part takes care of that. This was a raw print that was not sanded or smoothed or anything like that. So the bumps and the fine texture from the SLS process will be there. But, you know, if I were to prep this before, it would have whatever finish I did at that time. So if you want something that looks like, you know, old copper or something like that, you leave the texture and then do some polishing and then buffing and then adding some patina to give it that age. And you can also use some fine sandpaper. I think this is 3000 grit. You can take the Dremel to it with one of the buffing wheels on the Dremel and some polishing compound, but you can really see that that shine coming through. This is a bit of an awkward piece, but you know, with a little bit of elbow grease, you get that nice shine coming through. And then I like to do this just because it's fun. So it is a metal finish on a plastic piece. Really, really cool. And very simple. This is one of the things I hate about steel wool. It's great stuff, but man, is it a mess. If you have areas like you know, hard to reach places, you can use something like a rod here. This might not fit, but something that would fit with a little bit of steel wool, and just work it, and it would be fine. In this case, I probably wouldn't have painted that. If I were to use this, I wouldn't have painted that area. It's because that's where the switch would actually sit. So I wouldn't want that that area to have metal. Avoid unwanted contact. As you can see, a little bit of work, and you'll get something really cool. So let's see if I can get some patina on this. I think, yeah. Let me put it like that. And I think this is, if it's not clogged, I haven't used this one in a while. Okay. So let that just sit for a little bit. Let me get some of that, soak some of that up. So it's darkening up, getting that old feel. Then you can always, once it's dry, dial it back and get some of the shine back if you want. Just, you know, keep in mind, well, first let me say, if you are doing this on a chassis and you're making your own 3D printed parts, take tolerances into consideration, because you're putting a layer of paint and then a layer of metal. So your piece is getting thicker, while at very small increments it's getting thicker. So if you have an inner diameter of you know, 1.125, and you print your thing at 1.125, and then paint it and plate it, it may not fit. So just be careful. Yeah. And then this stuff, like in crevices like that, it may take a while, so we may not see it. I don't know if I'm gonna just sit around waiting for it, but in crevices and corners, this stuff will create the green oxide on these parts, so it looks really cool. But yeah, so that's basically how you turn your 3D printed plastic pieces into real metal finish. It's really simple. Again, it's your copper plating solution, and the secret is conductive paint. And I did do a couple pieces earlier. It's a speaker holder. And this is real brass. This is just a scrap piece of brass. So this is real metal that I plated, real brass that I plated with copper. But you know, you can see. Really cool. So give it a try, and share your pics. I'm curious to see what you do, and you know, always up for seeing new things. So let me see what you got after you give this a try. Thanks.